The cold lights of the gym cut through the night like a beacon. Shouts, laughter, phones raised high. In the center, a young black boy steps into the ring, worn-out sneakers on his feet and a mouthguard he bought just yesterday. Someone in the stands yells, "Look, the janitor's son, this won't take long." He lowers his eyes for a moment. He thinks of his father, of the mop and bucket, of the bent back. He thinks of all the times he swallowed his tears just so no one would call him weak. The bell rings. 1, 2, 3 steps and then the first punch. The sound of impact is so sharp that even the laughter dies mid-air. Silence. And the story rewinds. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Down the polished hallways of Jefferson High, the smell of ammonia always arrived before Elias Jackson, the janitor. He started his shift before sunrise, insisting the school should shine when the children walked in. Elias was a black man with wide hands, tired shoulders, and a smile that stood like a wall against the world. Every morning, he whispered the same words to his son, "God does not abandon the righteous, Malik. The rest we face with hard work." Malik Jackson, 17, had learned to swallow pride like swallowing fire. He grew up among buckets, mops, and empty corridors. He knew which doors stuck, where the paint chipped, which teacher hid gum under desks, and which laugh shifted when he walked by. On paper, his grades were good. In life, he was often placed in the shadows, as if his very existence needed permission. In the locker room, voices carried through the thin metal doors. "Hey, look who's here, the prince of the mop." "Careful, don't slip on Daddy's soap." Malik didn't answer. He zipped up his gray hoodie and kept walking. He had learned that answering only fed the beast. But some days, cruelty had sharp teeth. The town, a typical American county with a church on every corner and flags on every porch, pretended to be fair. But fairness there had a last name, a bank account, and a skin color. Up on the hill lived the ones who ruled, manicured lawns, new cars, dogs with blue bandanas. Down below, cracked sidewalks, buzzing fans in the windows, and families stretching every dollar. That's where Malik lived with his father, in a small apartment, Unit 3B, where the squeak of the door echoed like the squeak of the world. Boxing found Malik on a quiet afternoon. At 12, he stumbled upon an old yellowed book in the library. The pages spoke of footwork, raised fists, calm eyes in the storm. Stand firm. Breathe. Observe. The ring is a mirror. The words clung to him like scripture. With no money for a gym, he made do. Water jugs for weights, a sack of potatoes as a punching bag. The thud of his punches mixed with the hum of a fan and the neighbor's radio. Elias watched from the doorway, proud, but worried. "Promise me one thing, son. Your strength will never turn into arrogance." "Never, Dad. My strength will be silence and respect." At school, Ms. Carter, the history teacher, had sharp eyes behind her glasses. She noticed Malik avoiding the cafeteria and called him after class. "You're walking too small for someone who carries greatness in his eyes." "I'm just tired, Ms. Carter." "Tiredness has a cure. Truth. What's happening?" Malik shrugged, but his eyes betrayed him. She didn't push, only disappeared into the next room and came back with a pair of worn-out boxing gloves. "They belonged to my late husband. He used to say character is the hardest muscle to train. Take them." For the first time, someone handed Malik something that whispered, "I see you." But to many, he was still invisible, or worse, just a target. Brad Carter, Ms. Carter's nephew and son of the school board president, strutted the hallways like a red carpet was laid out for him. Captain of the team, blonde hair, movie star smile. He had it all: private coach, sponsorship, adoring crowd. Where Brad walked, greetings followed. Where Malik walked, insults chased. One crisp autumn Friday, Malik was sweeping when Brad approached with 2 friends. "Hey, Jackson, I hear you like fighting," Brad said, chewing each word. "I like discipline," Malik replied softly. "Discipline? Nice. Then how about a challenge? There's a charity fight night at the community center. Big crowd, important people, lights, cameras, entertainment. His friends laughed. Malik felt the sting before any punch. I don't fight to be someone's entertainment. Relax, champ. Nobody's laughing yet. It's for charity. You step in, survive a couple rounds, maybe take a picture. You'd be doing the school a favor. At the end of the hall, Elias appeared. He leaned on his mop like a soldier with his rifle. Brad turned, plastered on a smile. Good afternoon, Mr. Jackson. The school looked spotless as always. That night at home, the silence was heavy. Malik explained everything. Elias set the mop against the wall like laying down a cross. Son, some invitations are just fancy doors to a dark basement. I know, Dad. What do you feel? I feel they want to humiliate me. I feel they want to laugh at your son, at your work, at our color. Elias sighed deeply. Some fights we walk away from. Others we face so we don't run from ourselves. If you go, make sure it's for the right reasons. Not for the crowd, not for the money, not for anger. Go for you. And remember, God does not abandon the righteous. Saturday, Malik showed up at the community center, a brick building smelling of wood and memories. Inside, he met Coach Howard, a war veteran with weathered skin and eyes that had seen too many sunrises. You the Jackson boy? Yes, sir. Brad mentioned you. Want to train? The first minutes nearly broke him. Jump rope until his calves burned, shadowboxing until his lungs begged, jabs until his shoulders screamed. Coach Howard watched quietly, correcting footwork. You've got something that can't be taught. You listen. Your body listens. Your eyes listen. Keep coming back. The news spread like wildfire. The janitor's son is fighting the town's golden boy. Hallway whispers came with sneers. Some teachers gave pitying good lucks. Malik kept quiet. Training, school, home. The cycle tightened like a rope, but so did his resolve. On Sunday, church hymns filled the air. The pastor preached about David and Goliath, not naming names but leaving no doubt. Giants wear armor, but sometimes that armor is just painted tin. What fells a giant is courage with purpose. Elias gripped his son's shoulder. Malik closed his eyes and saw the ring not as an arena, but a desert trial. He didn't pray for victory. He prayed for courage not to shame his own soul. By Monday, posters lined the school walls. Fight night, charity event. Brad Carter versus Malik Jackson. Brad's photo looked professional, gloves shining, jaw sharp. Malik's looked like an afterthought, blurry and sweat-stained. The contrast wasn't accidental. Still, Ms. Carter stood staring at the poster for a long time. Malik, if this becomes a stage for humiliation, tell me. I'll intervene. Thank you, Ms., but I need to walk through this fire myself. Then walk it with integrity. As the week unfolded, Malik learned from Coach Howard to dance in the storm. Small steps, chin down, fists up, the body a shelter for the soul inside. Don't fight the crowd. The crowd gets lost. Keep your eyes where it matters. Malik nodded in silence. Inside, he stored every laugh, every shove, every slur, not as fuel for hate, but as a map of where to aim his resolve. One night after training, Brad and his friends blocked the parking lot with blaring music and headlights too bright. Jackson, Brad waved mockingly. We're rooting for you, man. Do us proud, okay? The town wants a show. Malik slung his bag over his shoulder. I don't fight to entertain anyone. Then why fight? So I can look in the mirror without lowering my eyes. For a split second, Brad's smile faltered. That evening, Malik and Elias shared chicken and rice at their tiny table. Forks against plates filled the silence. Son, when the fight begins, you won't be alone. Remember that. I know, Dad. No, Malik, you won't be alone. The words were a promise, heavier than iron. Malik tucked them deep inside like a talisman. The calendar turned. The town prepared its stage. The ring waited. Malik rose before dawn, tied on Ms. Carter's old gloves, and stood before his cracked mirror. He lifted his chin. The reflection staring back wasn't just the janitor's son. It was someone who had learned to stand tall, and outside the laughter was already warming up its throat. The flyer looked innocent, almost sweet. Fight Night, Community Charity Gala. At the bottom, small logos bloomed like flowers. Real estate firms, a car dealership, the bank that had denied Elias a loan years ago. In bold letters, main event, Brad Carter versus Malik Jackson. Charity, lights, music, a smiling glove clip art with a halo over it. Whoever designed it knew how to hide thorns under roses. Registration wasn't at the gym, but in a glass-walled office downtown, where the floor didn't creak and the coffee was free. Mr. Whitaker, head of the gala committee, wore a suit that fit like a secret. He greeted Malik with a handshake he reserved for people he didn't plan to remember. "Thank you for helping the community," Whitaker said, sliding a clipboard across the table. "Just sign these waivers, standard stuff, and we'll get you measured." Malik scanned the papers. Half the paragraphs sounded like locks. Not responsible for, assumes all risk, agrees to abide by the referee's final discretion. He felt the tug in his gut, like a voice tapping from the inside of his ribs. "May I take a copy home?" he asked. Whitaker's cologne smiled before he did. "Of course. But we're on a tight schedule, son. We need this settled today to finalize the card." The door opened. Brad breezed in with a gym bag and a grin, flanked by Trent and Logan, his two shadows. "Look at that. Our hero." Brad's eyes flicked over Malik's thrift store hoodie. "You ready for the big lights?" "I'm ready to fight fair," Malik said. "Fair?" Brad made a humming sound. "That depends on who's counting the points." A woman with a tablet stepped between them. "Weigh in, gentlemen." She led them to a digital scale. Brad kicked off designer sneakers and stepped up first. Numbers glowed. 156.2. He flexed, made a show of hopping off. Malik wiped his palms on his jeans and stepped on. 149.8. "Ah," Whitaker said lightly, as if discovering a charming coincidence. "We'll make it a catch weight, perfectly normal for exhibitions." Coach Howard's voice reached the room before his body did. "Catch weight's fine, if the gloves are 12-ounce and headgear is worn." He stood in the doorway like a stop sign. Not tall, not loud, but immovable. Whitaker's smile thinned. "Coach Howard, always a pleasure. This is a charity event, not a pro bout. We were thinking 10-ounce gloves and no headgear to keep it exciting for donors." "Excitement is not a substitute for safety," Howard said. 12-ounce and headgear, 3 rounds, 2 minutes each. No elbows, no spinning nonsense, proper mouth guards, or my fighter walks." A hush. Brad leaned on the wall, casual as a cat. "I'm cool with whatever, but if he needs pillows on his fists and a helmet, I won't complain." Howard didn't blink. He looked at Whitaker. "Put it in writing." Whitaker's pen scratched, reluctant. "Fine. 12-ounce gloves, headgear, 3 2-minute rounds, referee's decision final." The last clause got an extra loop, as if to underline where the real power lived. On the way out, Malik passed a display of framed photos. Past galas, men in tuxedos holding oversized checks, the mayor hugging Brad at age 12. History had been carefully curated here, polished, lit well, hung at eye level. Outside, Elias waited by the curb, a lunch bag in hand. He'd taken an extra hour off to be there. "How'd it go?" "They wanted 10-ounce gloves and no headgear," Malik said. "And?" "Coach made them sign for 12 and headgear." Elias's nod was small but heavy. "God puts people in rooms for a reason." Words sprouted everywhere at once. In the cafeteria, "It's just for fun, relax." In the locker room, "Bro, you're getting paid in exposure." Online, a hashtag appeared like a stain. "Mop boy." Videos looped of a mop sliding across gleaming floors, over which someone had edited a pair of cartoon gloves. Laughter ran like static through every hallway speaker. Ms. Carter found Malik after last period, holding a stack of essays like a shield. "I saw the waiver," she said. My nephew's involved, but I know, Malik said gently. You don't have to choose sides in public. Just pray for me. Her eyes shone behind the lenses. I already am. Training ramped. Coach Howard shortened Malik's jab, taught him to step at angles that made a body disappear and reappear a half-inch to the left. Don't punch their face, he said. Punch the truth. The truth is he drops his right hand after he hooks. Split the difference. Window opens, you throw the straight. Get out. At night, Malik did homework at the wobbly kitchen table while a pot of beans simmered. Elias taped his son's knuckles with the care of a craftsman mending stained glass. When you wrap your hands, Elias said, wrap your heart with them. 2 days before the fight, Whitaker staged a press event in the community center gym. Lights, a cheap step and repeat, a microphone that popped on peas. The town's small paper showed up, along with a local blogger who loved drama more than facts. Smile for the camera, boys, Whitaker called. Brad raised his fists, jaw clenched perfectly for the lens. Malik raised his too, but his eyes didn't hold the camera. They held the ring behind it. A man in a navy polo drifted over, clipboard in hand. I'm referee Daly, he said to Malik as if delivering good news. Been doing this gala for years. Howard's mouth tightened barely. He knew the name. Everyone knew the name. Daly played golf on Sundays with Mr. Carter, Brad's father. Nice to meet you, Malik said, because respect wasn't a costume he wore. It was his skin. As they left, a kid in a Letterman jacket called out, Yo, Jackson, don't forget your mop. Laughter burst like confetti. Malik kept walking. He'd learned not to confuse noise with power. Back at the gym, the gear check felt like an ambush. A volunteer dumped a bin of headgear on the mat. Most were frayed, straps stretched, foam tired. Pick one, she said. Malik tried on 3. The 4th pinched his temples. The 5th slid when he blinked. Howard crouched, eyes level with Malik's. What's wrong? They're all wrong. Howard didn't argue. He rifled through the bin until he found a headguard that had seen kinder days but still hugged the skull like a friend. He tightened the chin strap himself, then gave it 2 firm taps. Now it's right. The night before fight night, the town hummed like a beehive. In the apartment, Malik laid out his clothes. Plain shorts, clean mouthguard, Ms. Carter's old gloves, stitched twice where the leather had split. Elias stood in the doorway watching his son the way a lighthouse watches a storm. I'm proud of you, he said. For winning. For being brave without being cruel. They ate in soft silence. After dinner, Malik stepped out onto the fire escape. The neighborhood smelled of cut grass and engine oil. Somewhere a baby cried, then quieted. Malik looked at his fists. They didn't look like weapons. They looked like prayers with bones in them. He closed his eyes. Lord, he whispered, not asking for miracles. Make me clean in the middle of the flood. Morning arrived, dressed like an ordinary day, which felt wrong. The sky didn't know it was supposed to be dramatic. Buses sighed, dogs barked. The world kept its steady drum. At noon, the community center parking lot began to fill. SUVs with dealership plates, a food truck selling organic lemonade, a DJ testing bass lines like thunder practice. Inside, volunteers arranged the VIP section with white folding chairs and blue ribbons. Regular seating went further back, metal bleachers that remembered every winter game and summer fair. The ring sat under a square of lights, pale and indifferent. Backstage, in a hallway that smelled of disinfectant and eucalyptus rub, Whitaker cornered Malik with a cameraman in tow. Quick interview for our donors, he said. The cameraman raised a hand. 3, 2. Whitaker smiled wide. Malik, the town's thrilled you accepted this invitation. What do you want to tell our generous community? Malik glanced at the lens, felt its appetite. He thought of the waiver's closing line, referee's decision final. He thought of Daly's handshake, of Brad's easy grin, of the hashtag that tried to rename him. I want to say thank you, he said evenly. for giving me a chance to show kids like me that dignity doesn't need permission. Whitaker's smile flickered, just a frame. Wonderful, he said quickly, and cut the feed. Coach Howard wrapped Malik's hands with white gauze, then tape, each layer a quiet promise. Listen to the bell, he murmured. Not the crowd. Breathe on the ones. Set your feet. His right hand drops after the hook. Elias stepped in, kissed his son's forehead the way he had when Malik was 5. You won't be alone, he said, the same words deeper now. A volunteer poked her head in. 10 minutes. Whitaker breezed by again, a final checklist fluttering. Small change, he said, not stopping. Your bout is still 3-2s, but the walkout order flipped. Brad enters second. Howard raised an eyebrow. Why? Showmanship, Whitaker called over his shoulder. Main draw should enter last. Howard exhaled through his nose. It means you'll wait in the ring while he milks the crowd, he told Malik. Head still. Don't spend yourself before the bell. Malik nodded. 5 minutes. The hallway narrowed into a tunnel of sound. Bass announcer warm-ups, the rustle of 1,000 paper programs. A volunteer handed Malik the blue corner robe. It smelled like laundry detergent and old victories. Blue corner, she said. You're up. They walked. The tunnel opened. Light hit his eyes, bright, white, indifferent. Laughter rolled in waves, not at him yet, but waiting for him like a set line in a script. From the bleachers came a catcall. Make it quick, mop boy. Another voice layered on. Don't scuff the floor. Malik climbed the steps. The canvas felt springy, a field under frost. He touched the top rope, breathed, found the tempo where his heart stopped trying to outrun itself. The announcer's voice boomed, sticky with showman sugar. Laddies and gentlemen, in the blue corner, representing Jefferson High, Malik the janitor's son Jackson. A few polite claps. A few laughs, unashamed and loud. Malik met the noise with his breathing, in for 4, out for 4. He glanced once at the aisle. The red corner waited, empty for now. The crowd swelled, expecting spectacle. Backstage, a drum beat started, then guitar. Brad's walkout music. The house lights pulsed. The aisle filled with smoke that smelled like a concert and a lie. Malik rolled his shoulders. The headgear hugged him steady. Coach Howard's hand pressed his back, firm as a gate. Elias stood at the apron, fingers curled around the rope, eyes saying a prayer more fluent than words. Brad's silhouette appeared at the tunnel mouth, haloed by lights. The crowd erupted, standing, whistling, chanting a name that had never been told, no. He took his time. He would take more. Malik dipped lightly on his feet, just enough to feel the ring's corners, just enough to measure the space where truth would have to fit. The poisoned invitation had done its job. He was here. The trap had been set with flowers and applause, and somewhere in the first row, referee Daly adjusted his collar, already rehearsing what would count and what would not. The bell hadn't rung yet, but the storm had already started to gather. The gym swelled like a living thing, breathing heat, humming hunger. Lights washed the ring in a pale square, too clean for what hearts were about to carry into it. In the blue corner, Malik bounced lightly, not wasting steps, just tasting the canvas the way a swimmer tests water with his toes. Coach Howard stood behind him, one hand on the top rope, eyes scanning, counting exits and options like a man who'd learned to trust nothing but preparation. The bleachers flashed with phones. A boy in the second row filmed himself and, over his shoulder, pointed at Malik. Mop boy in the flesh, he said, smirking to the camera. Comments streamed across the screen, emojis of buckets, mops, laughter, digital confetti for a show they thought they'd already bought. Brad's music hit harder, then cut on a dime as he slipped between the ropes, red corner gleaming, new gloves, fresh trunks stitched with a small Carter Motors logo. He climbed the nearest turnbuckle and spread his arms. The crowd rose like a wave. Somewhere a brass bell rang, someone's prop for someone else's coronation. Referee Daly gathered them to center ring. Up close, the world shrank to breath and leather. Daly's eyes had the polite glaze of a maitre d'. "Gentlemen," he recited, voice smooth, "I want a clean bout. Protect yourselves at all times. Obey my commands at all times." He turned the rule book into a lullaby, and in the lullaby hid teeth. "Touch gloves," Daly said. Brad thrust his gloves forward fast, aiming for Malik's chest, a little shove disguised as sportsmanship. Malik met them clean, no flinch, no glare. Respect wasn't performance, it was bone deep. From the first row, a man in a suit cupped his hands around his mouth. "Wipe the floor, Brad," he shouted, already laughing at his own joke. The section around him burst. A chant began, small and mean. Mop, 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 mop. It spread like a spill no one intended to clean. Malik didn't look up. He looked through. He could hear Coach Howard's voice the way a lighthouse is heard by ships that don't see it. Breathe on the ones. Don't chase noise. Noise chases itself. At the blue corner, Elias gripped the rope, wedding band glinting once under the lights. He didn't shout. He prayed with his jaw set, with the lines on his forehead, with the simple, stubborn act of remaining where his son could see him if he needed to. The announcer drew out names like taffy. "In the red corner, from Jefferson High, the hometown favorite, Brad Carter." The crowd detonated. Stomps thudded through the bleachers. Popcorn jumped in paper tubs. Brad shadowboxed 3 sharp hooks for the cameras, chin tilted, the portrait of a boy who'd never learned how to hear the word enough. "And in the blue corner," the announcer continued, searching for the script that would sell pity as entertainment. "Representing our community with heart, Malik, the janitor's son Jackson." A smattering of claps. A whistle meant to pierce pride. And the chant returned, louder now, layered with giggles. Mop, boy, mop, boy. Malik rolled his shoulders, found the breath that lived under the noise. The headgear hugged his temples like a firm hand saying steady. He flicked 2 test jabs into the air, feeling distance, measuring the invisibles. Timing, rhythm, how the light angled off Brad's gloves, how his right elbow sat a hair wider after every lazy feint. On the apron, a camera swooped. The local paper's photographer crouched low, lens hungry. He wanted a story that fit the town's favorite frame. Golden boy ascendant, poor boy valiant but outclassed. The shutter clicked like a scoreboard. "Look at him," a girl in a Letterman jacket said, loud enough. "He's shaking." He wasn't. But fear is a rumor that doesn't need proof. It only needs repetition. Across the ring, Brad rested in his corner with theatrical ease, drinking in the sound as if it were oxygen. Coach Whitaker leaned over the ropes, whispering something that made Brad's smile sharpen. The red corner vibrated with the arrogant comfort of an expensive suit, tailored to win even before the first stitch. Daly checked mouthguards. When he got to Malik, he looked past him and nodded at someone in the VIP seats. Mr. Carter, golf tan and confidence. A small nod returned. A language, a ledger, a history of favors that never needed to be spoken aloud. "Gum shield?" Daly asked perfunctorily. "Set," Malik answered, voice steady. Daly's fingers drummed on the top rope. "No holding. Break on my command. Let's entertain the crowd." Howard's mouth tightened at the choice of verb. The bell still hadn't rung. That was mercy and cruelty both. "Hands up," Coach Howard murmured. "Jab like you're knocking on a door you already own. If he flashes the hook, split the gap. Don't admire your work. In, out, feet first." Malik nodded once. He felt his pulse in his wrists, not in his throat. That was good. Breath laying rail lines through his chest. That was better. In his mind, the gym at dusk, the old bag swaying, the scuffed floor, the metronome of rope on rubber. In his ear, his father's voice, "God does not abandon the righteous." Brad pushed off his stool early, eager to claim the center. The ref motioned them forward. The crowd leaned as one body, ready to feast. Laughter sharpened into a blade's edge, gleaming. "Don't slip," someone yelled. "Floor's wet." Another voice. "He cleans up nice." The ring didn't care. The ring was neutral like gravity. They reached center. For the briefest blink, the air between them stilled. Two boys, not men yet, carrying everything men had put on their shoulders. Money, pride, older grudges sewn into newer jackets. Brad smirked. Ready to be famous for the wrong reason? Malik's eyes didn't leave Brad's collarbone. The place truth reveals itself before faces do. Ready to be honest. Brad's smile wavered, then returned, bigger. The crowd laughed at a joke it hadn't heard but trusted would be funny. From the blue corner, Elias shifted his weight like a man bracing for impact he couldn't take for his son. Ms. Carter had slipped in quietly and sat 2 rows behind the VIPs, hands clasped white against her purse. She didn't chant. She breathed prayers between her teeth. "Seconds out," Daly called. The corners cleared. Ropes trembled as bodies stepped down. Time thinned, stretched tight as canvas. Above them, the lights hummed, insect loud. The chant tried one last time to write the story in advance. Mop, boy, mop, boy. Malik let the sound pass through him as wind passes through an open house. He set his feet. Daly lifted his hand. And in the half-second before metal kissed metal, before the bell's first note cut the laughter into pieces, Malik felt it. The hush that lives under noise, the narrow corridor where a person becomes a decision. The bell drew breath. And finally, it rang. Brad Carter didn't just walk to the center of the ring, he owned it. His shoulders rolled loose, his arms dangling like leashed dogs eager to bite. The crowd buzzed as he tilted his chin, flashing that catalog smile. Every gesture carried the comfort of someone who'd never been told no for long enough to believe the world was his reflection. "Hands up, Brad," a voice from the VIP row shouted. He did mockingly, then blew a kiss toward the bleachers as if this were less a fight and more a coronation. Brad's father leaned forward in his seat, a cufflink glinting under the lights. Next to him, Whitaker whispered something, and both men laughed softly, the kind of laughter that never needed microphones to echo in a small town. Referee Daly called them closer. "Box smart," he said, but his tone was buttered more for one side than the other. He looked at Brad as though at a son-in-law he already approved of. At Malik? A formality. The bell rang. Brad exploded forward, not with desperation, but with showmanship. A snapping jab, loud enough to crack the air. The crowd roared though it hadn't landed. He circled left, light on his feet, hips swaying like a predator rehearsing a kill. Malik kept his guard high, moving small, refusing the bait. Brad launched another jab, this one grazing the top of Malik's headgear. He grinned wide, turned his head toward the crowd as if to say, "See how easy this is?" Laughter rippled back. Malik exhaled steady. Coach Howard's voice threaded through the noise. "Don't chase him. Let him paint his picture. You draw yours." Brad feinted, dropped his shoulder, then whipped a left hook that thudded against Malik's arm. The sound was enough for half the crowd to leap to its feet. "Woo! He's hurt already!" someone screamed. Malik wasn't. But truth rarely matters when spectacle is louder. Between combinations, Brad couldn't resist talking. "This is charity, Jackson. Just stay standing. Make it quick, and I'll go easy." Malik's eyes stayed on Brad's chest, reading the rhythm beneath the swagger. He didn't answer. Respect wasn't silence, it was refusing to trade dignity for noise. Brad pressed harder, throwing flashy combos, more for the cameras than for damage. A jab cross hook, then a pivot, soaking in the cheers. His gloves were red, but they may as well have been gold. Every punch came wrapped in entitlement. Every step dripped with the arrogance of someone who'd been told his fists were destiny. Malik absorbed, parried, slid. Not untouched, but unbroken. Each hit that landed drew another roar, not because of pain, but because of prophecy. The prophecy that the janitor's son would crumble. From the sidelines, Elias clutched the rope until his knuckles whitened. His lips moved without sound. A prayer. A promise, maybe both. Brad's friends in the front row chanted in rhythm, "Easy work, easy work." And for a moment it looked true. Brad's body glistened under the lights, moving with practiced grace. Malik's smaller frame seemed swallowed by the canvas. But then, just for an instant, Brad's right hand dipped after a hook. The window Howard had promised opened like the flicker of a candle. Malik saw it, filed it. Not yet. The fight was long. Giants don't fall from the first stone thrown. Brad stepped back, raised his arms to the crowd, and shouted, "This is my house." The bleachers erupted. Even Daly smiled. And in the blue corner, Malik breathed, eyes sharp, heart steady. He knew the truth the crowd hadn't learned yet. Houses built on arrogance can collapse with one punch. The round ended. The bell's clang was drowned by cheers. Brad strutted to his corner as though victory were already his. Malik sat, quiet, as Howard wiped his forehead. "You're not here to play his game," Howard whispered. "You're here to end it." Elias's voice reached from outside the ropes, steady as the ground. "Stand tall, son. Giants fall too." And for the first time that night, Malik allowed himself the shadow of a smile. The arrogant giant didn't know it yet, but the ring was not his throne. It was his test. The second round opened like a door to bad weather. Brad came out grinning, gloves twitching, feet light. He'd tasted the crowd and wanted more. He feinted high, once, twice, then carved a hook to the body that thudded into Malik's ribs like a boot on a hollow step. The sound alone bought him another cheer. "Move," Coach Howard murmured from the blue corner, voice steady as a metronome. "In on the jab, out on the hook. Don't pay retail for his flash." Malik slid along the edge of the ring, steps small, shoulders tight. He touched Brad with a probing jab, just a fingerprint, a reminder he existed. Brad swatted it aside, then chased him with a three-piece meant for cameras. Jab, cross, hook, all teeth in theater. The cross brushed Malik's cheek, the hook skimmed his guard, but the forward rush bullied him to the ropes. "Break!" Referee Daly stepped half a beat late, letting Brad finish the combination before sliding between them, palms out, smile mild. "Box." Brad dipped and dug to the body again, left-right, short and mean. Malik's breath hitched. Pain flowered hot under his sternum, then pushed downward like a hand. He hit it with a step and a roll. Not today. Not in front of them. "Easy work," someone sang. "Hands high," Howard called. "He's selling wolf tickets. Don't buy." Brad flashed a shoulder, then whipped an overhand right. Malik ducked, felt air hiss over his crown, then heard the red corner whoop like fireworks. He answered with a small jab to Brad's chest. Nothing heavy, just a thumbtack in a balloon. For one blink, Brad blinked back. Surprise, respect's shadow. Then it was gone. He snapped another jab and crowded close, chest to shoulder, head heavy on Malik's headgear. The ref looked at their feet as Brad rubbed and dug a sneaky uppercut inside. "Watch the head," Howard said louder now. Daly's finger wagged vaguely in the air. "Keep it clean, gentlemen." He didn't separate them. A chant sprouted from the bleachers, dumb and relentless. "Mop, boy, mop, boy." The syllables hit like little pellets of ice. Malik breathed through it, 4 in, 4 out, counting the rope fibers in the corner pad, the squeak of someone's shoe 3 rows up, the faint lemon cleaner ghost of the community center's floor. Find the quiet under the noise. Coach had taught him. His father had lived it. Brad backed off half a step, enough to show the donors a little space, then slung a left hook that caromed off Malik's glove and kissed his ear. The world tilted a degree to the right. Sound swam. Malik clenched his teeth until the puzzle pieces of the ring snapped back into place. "Feet first," Howard said. "Your feet are your yes and no." Malik tried to say no with a pivot, but Brad had already decided the answer. He stamped a right hand down the pipe. It crashed through Malik's guard and rattled his jaw like a door in wind. Stars didn't explode. They tightened, then pricked the edges of his vision like frost. The crowd's cheer had a timbre Malik hadn't heard before, hungry, almost relieved. The story they'd come to watch was back on track. Brad smelled it. He stepped in, shoulders rolling, and ripped a body shot that stole a second from the clock. Malik folded just enough to hide it. His lungs burned. His legs felt like someone had poured sand into the joints. "Clin," Howard started. "Break." Daly cut in as Malik reached to tie up, swatting his hands away before they could lace. "No holding." Brad smirked. "Stand and fight, Jackson." Malik's tongue tasted copper. He blinked sweat from his lashes. He wanted, badly, to run backward, to circle until the storm ran out of thunder. But the rope kissed his calves. Geography had a way of telling the truth when pride lied. Brad bounced, showy, then fired a high jab as a look-away, eyes on the VIPs for half a beat too long. Window, the one Howard had charted on a chalkboard only Malik could see. Brad's right hand hung just a shade low after the fake hook. "Now?" Malik's mind asked. "Not yet," his body said. "Breath first, feet first. Buy yourself a second you can spend later." He rolled under the next hook and dribbled out to center, every step a prayer with bone in it. Brad pursued, grinning too wide, hands doing small circles like he could stir the ring into a whirlpool. "Behind the shoulder," Howard said. "He hides his heart there." Brad pounced. Malik parried the jab, and Brad tangled his feet with Malik's on the step-in. Ankles kissed, canvas whispered treachery. Malik's balance hiccuped. Brad gave a helpful shove with the forearm. Malik's knee brushed the mat, and Daly was already waving his arms. Knockdown to the neutral corner. Boos, cheers, it didn't matter. The word slammed into Malik's ears louder than anything else. He caught himself on a glove, popped up before gravity remembered it owned him, hands raised, eyes clear. It had been a trip, a tangle, a cheap assist. But the ref's hand chopped the air. 1, 2, 3. The crowd went wild because numbers are magic. They turned doubt into proof. Elias's fingers tightened on the rope until the tendons sang. "He's fine," he shouted, the first words he'd let out all night. His voice didn't reach the man with the count. Howard pounded the apron once. 1, not 2, not a tantrum, just a stake in the ground. "Breathe, Malik. It's a count, not a sentence." 4, 5. Malik rolled his shoulders, nodding, gloves up, eyes on Daly's chin to steady the horizon. His legs were there, his mind was there. The pain was there too, honest and unadorned. 6. Brad milked his corner, arms on the ropes like a king bored by peasants. He winked at a girl in the third row. 7. Malik exhaled, long. The world narrowed to the square in front of him, and the man who'd decided to make a mountain from a stumble. 8. Daly leaned in, palms out. "Walk to me." Malik took 2 crisp steps. Daly looked past him, to the red corner, then back. He wiped Malik's gloves on his shirt as if polishing silver. "Box." Brad came like a weather front. Malik bent low, slid right, and ate a hook to the shoulder instead of the jaw. His legs wobbled. Not a dance, not a fall, just a confession that he was human. "Circle," Howard said. "Steal the last 30. But the last 30 weren't a gift. Brad cut the ring and slammed a right hand into Malik's guard, the force enough to staple him to the ropes. He ripped to the body again. Pain cracked open. Malik's breath dropped an octave. The chant surged like a tide. "Mop, boy, mop, boy." Daly hovered, alert to everything but the forearm pressing Malik's throat a heartbeat too long, the glove palming his headgear a heartbeat too hard. When Malik tried to clinch, Daly's hands were there, parting, scolding, resetting the stage for red gloves and bright smiles. 10 seconds. The clap sounded like a starting gun for Brad's ego. He flurried, slaps and thuds and one clean straight that kissed Malik's cheekbone with enough love to bruise tomorrow. Malik didn't throw back. He couldn't afford to admire any single punch. He shelled and rolled, his mind walking a narrow bridge of breath. 3, 2. Brad cocked a final hook for the bell. Malik tucked and let it graze the crown instead of the chin. The bell cried mercy. Daly stepped in, a hand on each chest, the picture of fairness painted in delayed strokes. The round went to red in every eye that mattered, on paper, on phones, in the tidy columns of a small-town memory that adored tales, where wealth equals worth. Malik sank onto the stool. The world pressed close. The ring shrank to a square inch between his eyebrows where a headache tried to set up shop. Howard crouched, eyes level, voice soft. "You're here," he said. "Not it's okay. Not you're winning. Just truth. You're here. That wasn't a fall. That was a lesson. The lesson is he needs help to tip you. Good. Now we make him pay for needing help." Malik nodded once. "Body. Hurts." "Good," Howard said, and somehow made the word a blessing. "Means you're alive. Listen." He dips the right after the showy hook. "We've seen it 3 times, don't go hunting, let him gift wrap it. Jab his chest, step outside his lead, split the guard straight, in and out. Don't stand for the photo." Elias leaned in, towel in hand, eyes wet where no one could see. He dabbed Malik's forehead as if anointing him. "You won't be alone," he said. The words were a rope thrown across rough water. "Remember." Across the ring, Brad's corner was a cocktail party. Laughter, a slap on the back, cold water poured with theater down a neck that had never bowed. Brad stood between rounds to flex for a camera, towel tossed aside like a cape. The crowd drank it with both hands. Daly sauntered to center, casual, whistling a tune that didn't belong to either fighter. He looked at the VIP row first, then at the clock. Seconds out. Howard pressed his fist gently to Malik's glove. "Choose your moment. Don't ask the crowd for permission to be brave." Malik drew one more breath, the kind that fills a house with light before a storm takes the roof. The ache in his ribs answered, present and loyal. He stood. The stool slid back. The rope sighed. He walked to center, not faster, not slower, and found Brad's eyes over the rim of his gloves. For the first time all night, he saw something flicker there that wasn't pure certainty. The bell lifted its throat. Round 3 was coming, the round where boys learn if they're men, and crowds learn if they were wrong. And somewhere beneath the roar, like a thread through heavy cloth, a memory began to stir, the sound of a father's voice, the weight of old gloves, the promise that God does not abandon the righteous. The bell's cry dissolved into a low ocean roar, crowd, lights, breath, all folding into one sound. Malik stood from the stool, and the world narrowed to the 4 ropes and the space inside them. His ribs ached like a door frame after a storm. Pain, honest, and present. He welcomed it the way a soldier welcomes daylight, not as comfort, but as proof. Brad swaggered out with the ease of someone dancing on a table built by other men. He flicked a lazy jab the way rich boys flick lint. The red corner whooped. Referee Daly hovered with the soft smile of a host whose favorite guest never waits in line. "Hands up," Coach Howard said. Calm, not loud. "Feet first, chest jab. Make him show the drop." Malik's gloves rose. He slid an inch left, an inch right. The canvas felt different now. Not like a stage, but like a map. And somewhere on that map was a small X, where arrogance would step and truth would meet it. Brad faked high, then shoved his forearm across Malik's guard as they grazed past. "Stand still, mop boy," he hissed. Malik didn't answer. He touched Brad's chest with a short jab, not a punch, a question. Brad swatted at it like at a fly. His right hand dipped a fraction, the tiny sin of a man who'd never been asked to repent. "Again," Howard said. Malik asked again. "Tap." Brad swatted again, impatient. Drop, flicker, open. The window wasn't a door yet, but it had a hinge. A chant tried to rise, "Mop! Boy!" But it arrived tired like a joke told one time too many. Sound blurred at the edges. Malik's focus drew in tight until the ring was just Brad's shoulders and the space above his lead hand. And then the world flickered, not outside, but inside. The gym's lights became the weak bulb of apartment 3B, humming over a wobbly table. The ropes became the cracked doorframe Elias had sanded twice and meant to sand a 3rd time. The smell of canvas became pine sol and warm rice. In that small kitchen, a man with wide hands and tired shoulders wrapped his boy's knuckles with tape, thumb pressing each turn flat. "Make a fist," Elias said in the memory, voice steady. Malik did. Elias smiled, small. "Good." A fist is a promise. Don't break it on the wrong target. Back in the ring, Brad fainted, eyes on the crowd, half a heartbeat too long. Memory came again, slow and clear. Church pews, stained glass light warming faces. The pastor speaking David and Goliath into common language. Giants wear armor, but sometimes that armor is painted tin. Elias's hand on Malik's shoulder, the squeeze that said, "I'm here." The hymn rising behind them, voices cracking in the high notes, and Elias whispering, "God does not abandon the righteous." Back in the ring, Coach Howard's voice like a lighthouse in fog. "On the ones. Let him give it to you." The noise of the gym thinned to a thread. Malik could hear the rhythm under Brad's movements the way a carpenter hears a wall's hollow. Brad's feet tapped a pattern, light, showy, careless on the exit. His right glove floated, show, pose, dip. The pattern was a sermon. All Malik had to do was listen. He slid in and touched the chest again. Tap. Brad rolled his eyes, exaggerated for the donors. "Hit me, Jackson," he said. He would, but not because Brad asked. The next memory rose without knocking. Ms. Carter in her classroom, the smell of dry erase marker, the stack of papers on her desk, the old gloves in her hands. "Character is the hardest muscle to train," she'd said, a lifetime ago, last week. He'd believed her before he knew he'd need to. Brad's corner shouted cues. "Double up, make him pay." But they sounded far away, like radio through a wall. Malik stepped outside Brad's lead, the way Howard had drawn with tape on the gym floor. He felt the canvas under the balls of his feet. He felt the wrap under his gloves. He felt his breath draw long and even, the house of his body holding firm. Brad flung a wide hook for the cameras, shoulders flashing. His right hand fell, not a collapse, just a drift, the tiny leak that sinks ships given time. Now? The question didn't shout. It rang. Another memory answered. Elias in the school hallway, mop in hand, watching men in suits talk like they owned air. He hadn't interrupted. He had just stood, a quiet shape against the bright tiles, and later he told his son, "Some fights we walk away from. Others we face so we don't run from ourselves." Malik's chin tucked a breath deeper. His back foot kissed the canvas like a signature. His left shoulder twitched a feint of its own, borrowed arrogance just enough to make Brad bite again. Brad did. Hook flashed, right hand dipped. Window. Howard's voice didn't rise. It landed. Split it. Time thinned. Malik's right hand left his cheek on a straight line he'd rehearsed in 1,000 quiet rooms. The line that starts at the floor, climbs the leg, turns through the hip, and leaves the shoulder like truth, leaving a mouth that finally refuses to lie. He didn't throw it yet. He shelved it in that tight corridor where decision becomes action and courage becomes clean. Brad reset his feet, annoyed. He spat a word Malik didn't catch. The crowd shuffled, phones re-aimed. Daly drifted 2 steps toward the VIPs like a plant trying to find its light. "Chest jab," Howard said again. "Make him open the door for you." Malik touched the chest. Tap. Brad slapped at it too hard, the way anger slaps at flies. His right hand fell a shade farther. And in that breath between tap and slap, Elias's voice came a final time. Not loud, not spectral, but ordinary and full. "You won't be alone." "I know," Malik breathed, the words lost in leather and light. He slid left a half-step outside Brad's lead. Brad chased, hips square, chin high, the picture that had sold 1,000 cheers. He loaded the left hook for one more showy arc, eyes already lifting to the row where approval lived. Malik's world shrank to a single bright thread, the path from his back heel to the knuckles of his right hand. He gathered it, he anchored it, he chose. Daly's shoes scuffed. Someone in the bleachers laughed. A phone chimed, the lights hummed. Brad's glove left his cheek. The window wasn't a window anymore. It was a door. Malik stepped through. His shoulder turned. His fist followed. The first punch was already on its way. Malik stepped outside Brad's lead and the ring shrank to a clean line. Heel, hip, shoulder, knuckles, like a wire pulled tight across a canyon. Brad's left hook bloomed wide for the cameras, chin rising to meet the praise already on its way. Malik didn't wind up, he didn't load. He just let the truth leave him. The right hand shot out straight, short, no smoke, no drum roll. It split the space Brad had left unguarded. The seam Coach Howard had named, the hinge arrogance had loosened. Knuckles kissed the point of Brad's chin with a sound that wasn't a bang or a crack, but a click, the sound of a lock opening. Brad's eyes stuttered. His knees remembered gravity. The crowd's chant snapped mid-syllable, "Mop!" and then the syllable fell, fluttering like confetti that forgot where to land. Silence swept the bleachers in a clean sheet. Phones froze mid-air. Somewhere a popcorn tub hit the floor with an honest thud, the only witness that dared speak. Brad didn't fall. Not yet. His body did a small, stunned sway, like a tall glass bumped at the lip. He blinked once, twice, and his right glove drifted up late, an apology that couldn't erase what everyone had seen. Malik didn't chase. He recovered the hand and came home, guard up, feet under him, eyes calm. He'd been taught never to admire his work. He didn't. He only watched Brad's feet, the way one shoe misread the canvas now, the way balance became suggestion instead of law. Beautiful, Coach Howard said, and the word was a stone placed exactly where a bridge needed it. Again, only if he gives it. In the first row, Mr. Carter's smile cracked a hairline, then returned by force. Whitaker sat forward as if proximity could change cause and effect. Referee Daly's hand twitched toward them and then back, a reflex looking for instructions. Brad's mouth found a shape like a grin and failed. He thrust a jab that didn't mean it, the glove a fraction late, a fraction wide. Malik touched his chest with a feeler, tap, and Brad swatted hard, angry at the fly. The right hand dipped as if history were a weight he couldn't keep lifted. Malik stepped half outside, then slid in on the rail he'd already laid, and dropped another straight right. Not a bomb, a sentence, period. Brad's head snapped, his heels scuffed in a backstep that wasn't planned. A gasp moved through the bleachers like wind in wheat. The sound of laughter had fled. In its place, a grammar no one expected. Shock, then hush, then the light beginnings of something that might, given time, become belief. Brad grabbed a clinch, heavy on Malik's headgear. Daly was quick this time, very quick. "Break, break," he sang, pushing them apart before Malik could work. Brad exhaled with a small, ragged noise that microphones would not have loved. He shot a hook with conviction, but no proof. Malik rolled under and answered with a left hook of his own, short, tight, glove turning like a key. It kissed Brad's temple. His legs did that glass wobble again. "Jab the chest," Howard said. "Keep him where you can see him." Malik did. Tap. Brad swiveled, late. The jab wasn't violence, it was steering, nudging Brad into the corner where the canvas felt a shade softer and the lights a shade crueler. From the apron, Elias didn't cheer. He stood, a tower built from kitchen tables and morning shifts, his lips moving with the prayer that had followed his boy from hallway to hallway. God does not abandon the righteous. Brad tried to tear the air, tried to make noise into power again. He rattled a flashy combination. Gloves loud, shoulders loud, the old theater. 2 punches thudded against Malik's guard. 1 grazed his cheek. The old story tried to reassert itself. Malik refused the script. He stepped off the line, touched the chest, tap, and when Brad reached to slap, Malik braided jab right left hook in the space arrogance always leaves behind. The right hand straightened Brad's posture. The left hook turned his head a quiet quarter. Brad stumbled into the corner pad. The ropes held him like friends he'd never need before tonight. The gym's sound didn't return. It changed. A low, collective "oh" rolled across the seats, the human voice recognizing a truth it had bet against. In the back rows, a few kids cheered without permission, young enough to love what's true before they're told who to love. Daly darted closer, palms out, protective, too protective, as if to announce that's enough of that without actually saying it. "Watch the back of the head," he warned Malik, though Malik's punches had been clean as prayer. "Breathe," Howard said. "Don't drown in your own tide. Feet first." Brad shoved off the ropes, pride dragging him up by the collar. He blinked hard, trying to reset the picture to turn the ring back into a mirror that pleased him. He stared at Malik like at a problem money should have solved already. "Lucky shot," he said, breath not quite steady. Malik's eyes didn't flicker. Then why did it work twice? Brad's face flicked through emotions, the Rolodex of boys who've always been believed. He chose anger. It felt familiar. He charged behind a high guard that was really a doorway, and Malik threaded a short uppercut that met him halfway, a gentle correction delivered by bone and honesty. Brad's head popped a fraction. His body folded, then recovered, then denied it had done either. He latched on, forearm heavy again. Daly's break was lightning fast now, prying them apart before Malik could stitch body shots to truth. 10-second clap. It hit like a clock announcing more than time. Brad's eyes flicked to the VIP row, to the ledger of who he had to be for. In that glance lived a lifetime of advantage. And tonight, a fatal half-beat. Malik stepped outside the lead one more time and wrote the same sentence a third way. Jab to the chest, right down the rail. Clean. Economical. Just enough to wobble the king's crown without stealing it. The bell saved Red. It didn't sound like mercy this time. It sounded like delay. They walked to their corners through air that had changed its mind. Brad's corner got loud. Too loud. The kind of volume that tries to glue a story back together with noise. Ice water splashed. Words snapped. "He's nothing. You got careless. Take it back." Mr. Carter leaned in so far his tie touched the rope. In the blue corner, Howard didn't smile. He didn't need to. He wiped Malik's brow and spoke like a carpenter measuring twice. "He's ready to make mistakes. You're ready to read them. Keep your house in order. Same door, same key if he hands it to you. If he doesn't, don't force it, win the small minutes." Malik nodded. The ache in his ribs hummed under the larger music of purpose. He looked across the ring at Brad and for the first time saw not a giant but a boy in a costume. Heavy fabric, good stitching, shoulders that could carry it until the first storm. Elias touched Malik's glove, a father's blessing disguised as corner work. "I'm here," he said. The words didn't need to travel far to do their job. On the bleachers, Ms. Carter pressed a fist to her mouth, tears bright behind her glasses, not because Brad had been touched, but because Malik had been seen. Character was the hardest muscle. Tonight, it was also the strongest. Referee Daly stood at center, eyes quick with calculation, nose tilted toward the row that paid for this light. He raised his hand for the next round. His voice came smooth. "Seconds out." As Malik rose, the gym listened, not with the laughter that had greeted him, but with something like respect having its first cautious breath. A few claps sounded from unexpected corners. They weren't loud. They didn't need to be. The first punch had landed, and with it, a new grammar. The story could still break either way. Tricks hid in rafters, men hid behind clipboards. But the air had shifted. Brad rolled his shoulders as if to shrug off a truth that clung. Malik rolled his wrists, breathing steady, a house with lights on in every room. The bell lifted its voice again. The silence, having done its holy work, stepped aside for the next sound. The bell sang and the ring filled with old habits in new clothes. Brad came out fast, too fast. Fury wore his face like a borrowed mask. He slammed a jab at Malik's guard, then another, then a hook that scraped leather on bone. The crowd tried to remember how to be loud. It found a ragged chorus. "Box," referee Daly said, already close enough to smell breath. Brad crowded Malik, forearm heavy, head buried, dirty but deniable. Malik turned his shoulder, slid along the ropes and tossed a short jab to the chest, steering, not punishing. Brad swatted in anger, right hand dipping like a man who refused to learn. "Good," Coach Howard murmured. "Don't rush the truth. Make him open the door." Brad stepped on Malik's lead foot in the clinch. Once. Twice. The third time Malik tried to peel off. Brad shoved at the same moment. Malik's balance hiccuped. "Break!" Daly barked, late for the shove, early for Malik's counter. He pried them apart with a hand hard on Malik's bicep and gentle on Brad's chest. "Keep it clean." From the red corner, Whitaker shouted, "Warn him for holding," as if reading a cue. Daly nodded without looking. "Next one," he told Malik, eyes already drifting VIP ward. They circled. Malik jabbed the chest, small and stubborn. The noise tried to drown it, but prints on the body leave marks that don't need applause. Brad slung a looping right that whooshed over Malik's ear. Malik answered with a tidy left hook that thumped temple. Brad blinked, offended more than hurt. "Slip and step," Howard said. "Let him miss by an inch, not a mile. Spend pennies, not dollars." A minute in, something slick flashed under Malik's soul, a dark crescent near the neutral corner. He checked his step and felt his ankle whisper warning. The next stride he shortened by instinct. "Water," Elias called, hand slicing the air. "On the canvas." Daly didn't hear, or pretended not to. Brad did. He herded Malik toward the crescent like a cattleman. Malik refused the corral, angled out on small feet and tagged the chest again, tap, and Brad's glove fell in the old, beloved sin. Malik didn't take the gift yet. He filed it. The slick was a trap and traps want over-eager prey. "Time!" Daly snapped suddenly. He stepped to Malik and pinched the tape at the wrist. "Loose." He turned and walked to the timekeeper without asking for scissors. 20 seconds bled for free while a volunteer hunted for a roll. Howard's jaw worked once, then stilled. He raised both palms, the picture of calm, and when the tape came, he rapped tidy and fast. "Breathe," he said to Malik as if they were alone in a quiet gym. "They can borrow seconds. They can't borrow your focus." Across the ropes, Whitaker leaned in and said something into Brad's ear. Brad nodded, eyes bright with the new plan. "Box," Daly sang. Brad came with elbows tucked, fists high, a tighter picture briefly. He snapped a pair of clean jabs. Malik slipped one, parried the second, and rolled under a hook that tried to sneak back toward the old script. Brad's right hand sank anyway. Arrogance is muscle memory. "Split it when you see it," Howard said. "Don't chase. Invite." Malik invited. Jab to the chest. Tap. Brad slapped. With interest. The right drifted. Malik stepped outside the lead and started the straight. "Break!" Daly cut through them, hands up as if rescuing someone. "Watch the head," he scolded Malik, though foreheads had stayed honest. Boos bubbled, small, surprised. Some people had come for a show. They were getting a lesson in how shows are managed. They reset. Brad flurried. Malik shelled, picking shots with elbows, buying inches with pivots. A cuffing shot skidded behind Malik's ear. "Back of the head," Howard barked. Daly wagged a finger at both fighters. "Next one's a warning," he said to Malik first. The VIP row nodded in satisfied unison. "Eyes on the job," Howard murmured. "When the wind howls, you tighten the windows." The 10-second clap sounded early to Malik's body. It couldn't have, but the round had been stretched by interruptions, trimmed by scolds. Brad threw one more combination after the clap and the bell, sliding a right hand that landed a heartbeat late. "After," Howard shouted, stepping to the rope. Daly's hand fluttered. Not a warning, not a point, just theater. "Keep it clean," he said again, smiling at Brad without meaning to. Back on the stool, Malik breathed in fours. Pain lit his ribs. Purpose cooled his head. Howard pressed an ice pack, eyes steady. "Listen to me. We knew they'd try to stack the deck, so we bring our own table. This is your house when you say so, with your feet. Chest jab, outside the lead, straight when he hands you the picture. If he clinches, work up the middle, then step off. Don't be there for the photo." Elias leaned in, quiet. "They can move clocks," he said. "They can't move God." Across the ring, red corner boiled. Mr. Carter stabbed the air with a finger. Whitaker talked with his whole neck. Brad banged gloves together like cymbals, trying to summon old thunder. "Seconds out," Daly called. Round starts. Brad sprang like a trap that remembered its job. He bullied to the ropes, forearm pressing Malik's throat. Malik turned, slid, and touched body with a short right that sounded soft, but stole a breath. Brad grimaced, hit it, then hammered Malik's shoulder with a shot that looked like a miss to anyone who's never had their deltoid bruised by entitlement. Break! Daly wedged in, again too early for Malik's work, too late for Brad's. They obeyed. They didn't agree. A minute later, Brad finally found clean leather, a right hand over the top that drew sweat from Malik's hairline like a string of pearls. The crowd seized the moment to remember how to roar. Bradley chased, left hook wide, right hand low, and Malik took half a step to daylight. He touched the chest, tap, and this time the door swung all the way. He sent the straight down the rail. Brad's head snapped. The crowd's roar inverted to a gasp so quickly, it sounded like the room had swallowed itself. Again if he gives it, Howard said, voice still level. Don't take, don't beg, receive. Brad, stung, lunged into a clinch. His glove palmed Malik's headgear and turned it. Daly was instantaneous, wrenching them apart and firing a look at Blue. Watch your head. Ref, Howard called, not pleading, not angry, documenting. We see you. Daly's jaw twitched. They traded. Malik's feet wrote clean lines. Brad's feet wrote loops. The slick patch still glimmered in the neutral corner. Malik kept clear. When Brad tried to steer him there, Malik pivoted hard and tap. The chest jab told him no again. A roar rose from the back rows, different now. Not mockery, not full-throated belief yet either. Recognition. Kids with no VIP seats know what they're seeing. Then the play everyone dreads. Malik slipped inside and placed a neat body shot. Brad folded around it and, like he'd planned the theater, threw his head back and yelped. Low! Whitaker screamed from the apron, already halfway through his outrage. Daly jumped in with flourish. Warning, Blue, keep them up. He pantomimed a belt line at Malik's chest. Howard's voice came dry as desert. Ref, that was legal. We both know it. Daly's eyes flicked to the VIPs, then back. No change. Malik didn't argue. He stepped to neutral, breathed, let the crowd's confusion settle like dust. Good, Howard said softly. We don't wrestle with pigs. Mud loves company. Back to the house. Jab his chest. Make him honest. The next exchange was pure arithmetic. Tap to the chest. Dip of the right. Step outside. Straight. Brad clinched. Daly separated. The crowd hummed. Again. Again. Every time Brad chose pride over correction, Malik wrote the same sentence in a different font. 10-second clap. Brad, desperate for theater, cranked a hook after the clap, and then another after the bell, a real one this time, gloves skidding off Malik's headgear. Howard was on the rope in a flash. Point, he called to Daly, hand open. After the bell. Daly looked at Mr. Carter, at Whitaker, at the ceiling. He turned back with a schoolteacher's frown. Last warning, he told Brad gently. No deduction, no justice. A promise made to thin air. Boos now, audible, from corners that had arrived to laugh and now found themselves learning what anger feels like when it fits right. Back on the stool, Howard didn't waste oxygen on outrage. He toweled Malik and spoke in the same even river. Listen, you're walking him down with patience. He knows. That's why the tricks. 2 more honest minutes like that and the board tips by itself. If the opening comes wide, you take it. If it doesn't, you own the minutes. Either way, we walk out clean. Elias rested a hand on Malik's shoulder. Father to son, anchor to ship. Stand, my boy, he whispered, strong and simple. Stand and see. Across the ring, the red corner had stopped laughing. Mr. Carter's face was the color of decisions. Whitaker rehearsed protests he'd need if truth won tonight. Brad stared into the middle distance where mirrors used to live. Daly drifted to center, one eye still on the row that signed the checks. He raised his hand. Seconds out. Malik stood, the ache in his ribs harmonizing with a deeper music. The boom and buzz of the gym receded to a weather he could work in. He looked at Brad and saw not a villain, not a prince, just a boy trapped between what he'd been told and what was true. The bell found its voice. If tricks were all they had left, then truth had already won on the inside. Now it just had to land. Clean. Round 3 felt like a tightrope strung over years. Time didn't pass. It balanced. Brad burst out as if noise could become power again. His gloves flashed, his shoulders rolled. He tried the old show, the one that had always worked. Malik met him with the same simple grammar that had reshaped the night. Jab to the chest, step outside the lead, see the door. The crowd didn't laugh now. It watched. Stay small, Coach Howard said, voice even. Own the inches. Don't donate your feet. Brad hammered the guard, leather thudding like fists on a locked door. Malik let the blows glance off bone and will, answered with a quiet right hand down the rail, not a haymaker, a statement. Brad blinked. He wasn't used to statements that didn't ask permission. From the VIP row, Mr. Carter stood, half out of his seat, jaw tight. Whitaker's smile had cracked into instructions barked between teeth. Referee Daly hovered, the gravity of his loyalty pulling him a degree off center. Box, Daly said, but the word sounded tired like a line read too many times. Brad bit down on his mouthguard. He faked high, then dove in with a body shot that carried a forearm's worth of grudge. Malik turned the shoulder, took the sting on meat instead of ribs, and answered up the middle with a short uppercut that lifted Brad's chin just enough to show the light. Now he knows, Howard murmured. Now make him remember. The gym's air changed temperature, subtle, like a front moving in. In the back rows, kids stood without being told, necks craned, bodies leaning toward truth. Brad threw a hook for the cameras. His right hand dipped for the habit. Malik didn't leap. He stepped outside the lead, heel to hip to shoulder in one straight prayer, and let the right hand go. It landed flush on the point of the chin. Clean. Honest. The kind of punch that makes a sound only boxers and believers recognize. Brad's legs forgot their script. He fell backward into the ropes, which caught him like old friends who suddenly weren't strong enough. He bounced forward, eyes wide and unmoored. Daly flashed between them, too fast, hands up, not counting. Watch the... The crowd answered for Malik for the first time all night. Count! It wasn't boos or cheers. It was a demand. One syllable, heavy with debt the town owed itself. Daly's jaw worked. He took a half step back. His hand finally cut the air. 1, 2. Brad's eyes focused. Pride shoved him up. He lifted with a wobble he tried to iron into swagger. 3, 4. Malik stood in neutral like a still photograph, chest rising slow, eyes clear. He didn't showboat. He breathed. He looked like a house with the lights on. 5, 6. Brad raised his gloves. He nodded too hard, overcompensating. His feet argued with gravity. Walk to me, Daly said. Brad did. He passed. Barely. Box, Daly ordered, and if there was reluctance in the word, the crowd scraped it off. Brad charged. Anger, fear, entitlement braided into motion. He flung a right hand from the backyard and missed by a small truth. Malik took half a step left and let the left hook go, short and patient, knuckles turning like a key in a lock that had insisted it would never open. It landed temple clean. Brad's knees whispered secrets to the canvas. He staggered sideways and took a knee, not because he wanted to, but because the floor was the only honest thing left. Phones rose again, but they weren't trophies anymore. They were witnesses. Daly had to count. 1, 2, 3. In the blue corner, Elias didn't move. He pressed both palms to the rope. The ring's light turned the moisture in his eyes into stars that belonged to no one else. 4, 5. Mr. Carter yelled something that didn't fit inside the rules. Whitaker threw up both hands at nothing. Miss Carter stood without meaning to, a small sound leaving her throat. Half sob, half thank you. 6, 7. Brad pushed to his feet, stubborn and shaking. He banged his gloves together, the old ritual trying to conjure old gods. They didn't come. Daly looked too long at Red. Then he waved them in. Box. 2 honest touches, Howard said quietly. He'll show you the third. Don't rush the blessing. Brad circled, chin tucked now, respect forced upon him like an unchosen coat. He jabbed. Malik parried. He hooked. Malik rolled. The ring shrank to a rhythm the crowd could feel in their ribs. Tap to the chest. Step outside. Brad swatted, late. The door swung. Malik sent the right hand down the rail again. Less force, more truth, and followed with a left hook that was less anger than closure. Brad's head snapped quarter left. His legs wrote a sentence that ended at the canvas. This time he didn't kneel. He fell, back flat, eyes open. The ceiling light reflected as a white coin over his pupil. The gym exhaled as one creature. Daly skated in, palms hovering, mind racing through ledgers and laws. He started the count because everything else would have been louder than his whistle. 1, 2, 3. Brad blinked. His chest rose. His hands didn't find the rope. 4, 5, 6. Somewhere a child shouted, "Get up!" Not cruelly, but because children don't know what mercy looks like from this close. 7, 8. Brad rolled to a side that didn't help, tried to push up on an elbow that wasn't listening. The human part of the crowd, mothers, grandfathers, people who've seen men be boys and boys be men, went quiet. The way you're quiet when truth enters a room. 9. In the blue corner, Howard placed a flat palm on the top rope. Steady. He didn't celebrate. He honored the count with stillness. Elias lowered his head. Daly's hand reached 10 like a man touching a hot stove he'd been warned about. 10. He waved his arms. He had to. The sound that rose wasn't a cheer at first. It was a release, air leaving a wound that had been held shut by force. Then it turned into applause that didn't know who it was for until it did. Malik didn't leap onto the ropes. He didn't pound his chest. He knelt where he was and pressed both gloves to the canvas, the floor he'd mopped, the floor he'd been told to know his place on, and bowed his head for a beat no camera could monetize. When he stood, Coach Howard rapped him once, brief, fierce, enough. Elias didn't rush the ring. He waited at the steps where fathers meet sons, eyes wet and proud and old. Daly lifted Malik's wrist. Up close, the ref's face had the look of a man who'd learned a new word the hard way. In this corner, the announcer groped for voice. By way of knockout, Malik, the janitor's son, Jackson. The name sounded different now. Not pity, not punchline, a name. In the red corner, Whitaker argued with air. Mr. Carter stood very still. Brad sat on the stool, eyes clearing around the edges, the costume sliding off his shoulders one invisible thread at a time. He wasn't a monster. He was a boy who'd met a boundary and survived it. Malik crossed the ring. He stopped in front of Brad. The world leaned in, ready to turn anything into a headline. Malik offered his glove. Brad stared at it. Pride warred with pain, then stepped aside. He touched gloves once, quick. His lips moved. The microphones didn't catch it. They didn't need to. Malik turned to the ropes where Elias waited. Father and son met in the corner and held forearms through the rope like a drawbridge between two castles that know they're the same house. God does not abandon the righteous, Elias said into the noise. He didn't, Malik answered. Phones rose again. They were recording something else now. The victory was clean. Not because the system allowed it, but because truth doesn't ask for permission when it finally arrives. And in a gym that had started the night laughing at a boy's name, silence had taught everyone a better lesson, just in time for the applause that would follow. For a heartbeat after the count, the gym forgot how to breathe. Then the sound came. Not a roar, not yet, but a deep human exhale, the kind people make when a weight finally rolls off their chests. Applause rose like a tide learning its own name. It wasn't polite. It wasn't rehearsed. It was earned. Malik stood in the middle of the ring, gloves low, eyes steady. He didn't ask for a microphone. He didn't beat his chest. He simply turned to each side of the gym and nodded once, the way a man nods to a road that tried to break him and failed. Elias climbed the steps and stopped short of the canvas, the way men who work for a living stop short of any boundary that isn't theirs. Malik reached over the top rope and pulled his father in. The cheer that followed wasn't for a winner. It was for a house. Two men who had held each other up through mornings that never made headlines. Coach Howard slid an arm around both of them, brief, fierce. "You stayed clean," he said into Malik's ear. "No one can take that." In the VIP row, Mr. Carter stood stiff as a statue in a wind he didn't like. Whitaker whispered a plan that already sounded old. Referee Daly hovered with the look of a man whose ledger had been audited by truth. He raised Malik's hand again, higher this time because anything less would have been too small for the room. Ms. Carter stepped forward to the apron, eyes wet behind her glasses. Malik saw her and lifted the old gloves from the stool, tired leather, careful stitches, memory in every crease. He raised them for her to see. She pressed a hand to her mouth and nodded. A quiet "I see you" returned. The announcer tried to speak, voice cracking. "Ladies and gentlemen." He stopped. The crowd didn't need narrating. It needed to finish something it had started wrong. From the back rows first, then the sides, then the front, people stood. Not all at once, not as a stunt. They stood like honesty asks people to, one by one until standing felt like the only decent thing to do. Applause gathered weight. A chant began. Not Malik's nickname, not a joke. 2 words, simple as a front door. "Stand tall, stand tall." The hashtag that had mocked him, Mop Boy, died in 1,000 pockets. On 100 phone screens, new words bloomed. Stand tall and the janitor's son. Not pity, not punchline. A banner you carry when you're tired of being small. Brad sat on the stool, head bowed, pride bleeding out where swelling would come later. When he stood, the ring tensed, waiting for an excuse to forget what it had learned. He didn't give one. He crossed the canvas slowly and stopped in front of Malik and Elias. His face was young again, the age you are when you finally meet consequences. "I was wrong," he said, not into a mic, not for a clip, to them. He extended a glove to Elias first. The old man looked at him for a long second, then took it. Not because the boy deserved it, because men decide what kind of house their sons will inherit. Brad turned to Malik. "You beat me clean." The words tasted like medicine. He swallowed. "I'm sorry." Malik touched gloves. "Be better," he said. It wasn't a taunt. It was a permission slip Brad had never needed until tonight. Cameras caught the moment, but the lens didn't own it. The gym did. Whitaker scrambled to the center with a forced smile and a shiny check. "On behalf of the gala committee," he said too loudly, "we're thrilled to donate tonight's proceeds to the scholarship fund," Malik said, calm. "Named for the people this town forgets." He looked at Elias's hands. "The Elias Jackson Scholarship, for kids who clean floors before class and still show up with their heads high." Silence fell again, different this time. The kind that means the right thing has been spoken and now you must answer it. The crowd looked to the VIP row. Pride battled public decency on Mr. Carter's face. Decency won by a nose. He nodded once, tight. "Approved," he said, and sat back down like a man who had paid a bill. Referee Daly cleared his throat. He turned toward Malik and very softly said, "I'll see to the paperwork." It wasn't an apology. It was a beginning. A small boy in a hand-me-down hoodie wriggled to the apron, eyes wide. "Mr. Malik," he called, voice shaking with the wonder of asking, "Does it still hurt?" Malik crouched, ropes creaking. "Yeah," he said honestly. "But pain tells the truth. It says you're alive. And if you stand in it long enough, it turns into strength." The boy smiled like someone had unlocked a door. Reporters finally found their cue. "Malik, over here. What do you say to the crowd that laughed when you walked in? Malik glanced around the gym, at the faces that had changed, at the ones still catching up. He found Elias, found Howard, found Ms. Carter, found Brad standing a step behind his own shadow. I say this, he answered, voice even. Dignity doesn't need permission. Respect isn't a gift. It's the rent you pay to live among other people. And God, he looked up, not for a camera. God does not abandon the righteous. The words didn't hit like thunder. They settled like rain on dry ground. He set the old gloves in the center of the ring and took a slow lap, touching hands, custodians from the community center, lunch ladies, bus drivers, a groundskeeper with dirt still under his nails. Every contact was a small repair. By the exit, a woman in scrubs stopped him. My boy, she whispered. He needed to see this. Me too, Malik said. Before he left, he turned back to the ring. The canvas had scuffs now, sweat darkening the blue in shapes that would vanish by morning. But one mark would stay, the place where a son knelt and thanked the floor that used to define him. Outside, the night smelled like cut grass and new air. Sirens far off, crickets arguing about nothing, the hum of a town that might, just might, wake up a little different tomorrow. Elias wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders. You stood, he said softly. Malik smiled, small and complete. We stood. The camera that caught them at the curb didn't follow them home. It didn't see apartment 3B's thin walls, the pot soaking in the sink, the shoes lined by the door. It didn't hear the prayer Elias whispered before sleep, or the way Malik answered amen with a breath that sounded like future. But the gym had heard enough. The laughter that mocked a boy had learned new work tonight. It had learned to applaud. Have you ever lived something similar? Underestimated in public but standing tall inside? Share your story in the comments. Do you believe justice arrives, even when the game seems rigged? Write it below. Never lose hope. Justice may take time, but it always comes. In the end, good prevails, and when it wins with dignity, no one can deny it.